In Tel Aviv, targeted by rocket fire, bombs falling in Gaza at the same time. George Mitchell is the former special envoy for the Obama administration for the Middle East peace process. Take a listen to what he said earlier on CNN about a potential all-out war in the region.
And the danger now is that if it is, it could spread. Not just the damage to Israelis and Palestinians, but if you had a conflict that spread throughout the region, it could be hugely destabilizing and costly to everyone involved.
Fareed Zakaria is joining us now. He's the host of CNN's Fareed Zakaria GPS. Fareed, you heard what George Mitchell is saying. He's experienced in the region. Do you believe there is a real possibility this could turn out to be an all-out war?
No, I don't. I think that at the end of the day, keep in mind, Israel has the most powerful military in the region by far. This provides enormous deterrent capacity, by which I mean to say the president of Egypt might make fiery speeches. The president of Turkey might say some emotional things. None of them are going to risk taking on the Israeli military. So I think the reality is you will see this very lopsided contest between the most powerful military in the Middle East and Gaza and Hamas, who have a few hundred rockets. It's going to raise political tensions. It's going to make it much harder to see how Israel ever gets to a comprehensive peace, ever is able to negotiate with the Palestinians. All those things remain true. But at the end of the day, issues of war and peace, these countries like Egypt and Turkey are very, very careful, and they will not foolishly go into something like that.
But as you heard, the Israelis, they're mobilizing. They're activating, about 75,000 military reservists right now, and they're threatening to actually launch a ground invasion into Gaza. Do you anticipate that?
That might well happen because the Israeli military, they tend to have a kind of military tactical logic here, which is now you've paid the price, you might as well go in and clean up this infrastructure. The problem is we've literally seen this movie before. The Israelis have done this before. It doesn't work in the long run. They've tried to embargo Hamas and Gaza and choke it off. That hasn't worked. Israel has to move beyond a kind of tactical military strategy towards Gaza to a broader political one, which is what are they going to do here? This is one of the true hellholes of the world. Is it possible that they will just continue unendingly to have this continue to fester? Or is there some possibility of creating an alternate track where Gaza is shown the benefits of a modern middle-class life, just the way the West Bank has. And as you notice in the West Bank, there's much less extremism, there's much less terrorism coming out of the West Bank. Maybe there's some path that they can go on. I agree it's difficult because they're getting rockets fired at them. But we've seen the military approach. It hasn't worked so far.
Let me switch gears, but stay in the region, Iraq right now. Senator John McCain, he was furious today when he got word that a Hezbollah terrorist who's been under U.S. arrest, now Iraqi arrest, is about to be freed. I want you to listen to what Senator McCain had to say.
We've received information that the Iraqi government has released a guy who was flown to Lebanon, a guy named Dakduk, who is responsible for the deaths of 5 Americans. This is an outrage. Families of those who were killed by this terrorist would also be outraged, and appropriate action should be taken as regards to our relations with the Iraqi government.
He's talking about Ali Musa Dakduk. The U.S. arrested him for participating in that raid that killed 5 American soldiers. When the U.S. pulled out Fareed, they were assured by the government of Nouri al-Maliki in Baghdad he would not be freed. He has now been freed. It's raising all sorts of questions about where the government of Nouri al-Maliki in Baghdad is going right now. What's your assessment?
My view, Wolf, is that we made a mistake right from the start. The Bush administration decided the easiest way to deal with Iraq was essentially to hand over the central government to hardline Shia groups because they were the most organized political opposition to Saddam Hussein. We made that decision knowing that many of these guys had spent decades in Iran, were receiving funding from Iran. And that's who we have. We have a hardline Shiite government in Iraq, in Baghdad. The Obama administration tried to alter that. They tried to get Mr. Alawi, who is a kind of moderate, in there. We know this from the Bob Woodward book. Didn't work. Now what we're seeing is the fruits of that initial decision. The government in Baghdad is not particularly responsive to the United States. It hasn't been on Syria. It hasn't been on these issues. I think it would be an exaggeration, a gross exaggeration, to say that it's a pawn of Iran. But it certainly is true that they do not take America's concerns particularly seriously, and they have their own internal reasons for doing things that are often quite sectarian, and we're stuck with this situation. I don't know that there's much we can do, but I share Senator McCain's outrage.
Yeah, a lot of people do right now. They're wondering what's going on in Iraq. Fareed, thanks very much for coming in. We really appreciate it.